Just call to order. Yep. Not taking any
Oh,
votes. You
okay.
don't record. You can
Yeah,
just say general discussion regarding the fire department budget, whatever it is. Yep.
So, before we start this evening, I'd just like to ask everyone to stand for a Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll begin right away.
All right, give me a minute.
Yep.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Deputy Clerk, may we start off with a roll call, please?
Councilman Cahoon.
I'm here.
You push your mic closer to me.
Is that better?
Right.
Councilman Cahoon.
Yes.
I'm here.
Councilman Morato.
Yeah.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Here.
Councilwoman Souza. Council President Brito.
Here. Thank you. This evening, we have police, fire. Along with police, we have animal control and possibly even finance while he's here. So we can begin with the police department. Excuse me, fire department. Chief Quick,
Good evening. How's everybody doing?
you want to begin with an introduction?
Yes, I'm going to
or-
begin. I'm going to begin with.
Is your mic on, sir?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah. Well, she's doing that.
Yeah, that thing is loud, huh?
There we go. All right.
Okay,
Sorry about
ladies and
that.
gentlemen.
May I ask
Okay, Chief.
one quick question, Mr.
Yes,
President?
please.
Malcolm, our half-year actuals are through end of month April? Okay.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to start off with my mission statement. The East Providence Fire Department is dedicated to saving lives and property by safeguarding our citizens through progressive code enforcement, fire prevention, public education, effective emergency response, and adapting to the changing needs of our community. And I'm just going to get right into our capital projects. And just let you know, the fire department's been very, very busy, not a dull moment. Most of our capital projects are on time. New roof projects for Station 2 and 3 have been completed. The 2020 capital budget floor project for Station 3 is nearly completed. We also have a capital project to re-chassis a rescue, and that truck is nearly completed. We are also taking delivery of our new ladder truck. It's been 2 years, but it's finally coming in next month. And that stake body truck that we ordered probably about 6 or 7 months ago, it's still out and delayed because of a microchip shortage. I want to give you guys a grant update. As the mayor had mentioned yesterday, we received a federal grant for $883,000 for a community paramedic program. 25 members of the fire department will be trained to the paramedic level. Funding is available to certify all of our paramedics to the community paramedic program. And this program will give us the ability to provide enhanced services to the community and will help the fire department establish a mobile integrated healthcare program. And what that program is, and the purpose for that initiative is to address the medical needs of individuals experiencing chronic healthcare issues. The program is also an organized system of services based on local needs. We identify chronically ill patients in the community. We visit these patients in a non-acute setting to evaluate their condition. We'll work in conjunction with the patient's primary care doctor and our medical director. With proper care, this initiative keeps frequent flyers out of the emergency rooms, which are already strained. Any questions on that program? Very good. We also applied for a $7.2 million SAFER grant for 24 additional firefighters. The proposed grant will pay 3 years of salaries and benefits for 24 new firefighters. The proposed grant will also give us the ability to finance the 4th rescue for 3 years. The awards for SAFER grants are going to be announced soon. And just a side note, the 4th rescue is in service days, part-time, from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. They had a very busy day today. An EMA update. I know I'm kind of getting off the budget, but I just want to update what's going on. We've actually vaccinated 24,000 people. We've managed over 100 clinics since December of 2020. We began giving 3rd doses, and we're planning and preparing for booster shots. And we anticipate the vaccinations will keep us busy for another 6 to 8 months. And the Emergency Operations Center at Station 3 was activated for Hurricane Henri, and the city is well prepared for any major emergency or severe weather event. And now to the budget presentation. Our total budget for year 21-22 is $24.9 million. It's an increase of $2.5 million from this current year. And that's due to the following increased components, which a 2% salary raise for in the collective bargaining agreement, and the city pension contribution, and the cost of the 35th Training Academy if we get that SAFER grant. Any questions? Okay.
That's the proposed year, 2022,
Correct.
going forward, okay.
Yes.
So these numbers, 2021 FTEs is 116, so we would go to 137
Correct.
under the new, okay.
Yes.
So what's the normal census of FTEs that, okay, we're understaffed, right, because of retirements and openings and
Well, we put the 20 firefighters on, the 20 new firefighters on.
recently?
And we already have vacancies. We already have 1 vacancy. And we're anticipating probably at least 5 retirements
This year?
this year, in this fiscal year.
When do you anticipate the 35th Training Academy to
We're
begin?
waiting for the award. Once the award comes out, we have 4 months to get them trained. So we're on the fast pace right now to get them through the application period.
When's the expected date for you to hear?
We don't have a
latest?
date, right? Well, we had, originally it was October, early October, but it's getting pushed back now. It's all based on when they give us when we get that award.
And what is that award amount?
7.2 mil,
7.2?
yes. And that's 3 years of salary and benefits.
Chief, over here.
Yes.
Of the approximately $2.5 million increase year on year, estimated, how much of that is driven by contractual salary, benefit, et cetera, increases?
Contractual, right about $700,000, and that's for the salary increase. Now, and another $775 for the pension contribution, and the rest is the academy.
If the academy will go on with or without this anticipated grant,
I would believe so.
so if we don't get
I
it,
don't think it'll be 24.
right,
It's going to be up to the mayor to make that decision. But we're going to need members to man that 4th rescue if we plan on fully funding.
that was a
rescue.
question I had, which I fully support having that fourth rescue, but I want to get back to a constituent's question. What is the staffing number needed for the fourth rescue? I know it has to do with shifts.
Right, it's 8 members to run
8
that
total could
rescue
run.
around the
Okay.
clock.
Okay.
And we estimate the cost for that would be about 1.1 mil. If we put it on full-time. Right now, we're financing it with overtime. So there is a little chunk of money coming out of my overtime budget to run that rescue part-time.
Along those lines, I think this is kind of related. What's the, off the top of your head, the mutual aid? Are we still relying on not having that fourth rescue? Are we still relying on other
Yes.
towns
Right now, we're consumers of mutual aid.
more than?
We just had a car accident on 195, needed 5 rescues. So we probably had at least 8 or 9 mutual aid rescues coming in today. And Rescue 3 was in service.
And keep in mind, I mean, with that fourth rescue, I mean, that rescue is not only going to be in Ward 1, obviously, it's going to be doing mutual aid runs. It's going to be covering for, other wards as well. So if 2 is out and there's a call,
Exactly.
one's going to go over to 2. So
Right.
it's constantly going to be on the go. I just don't want people to
Sure.
have the misconception that, there's going to be a rescue in Ward 1 and it's going to be from Center Street to Vermont Avenue. That's not the case. It's
No.
going to be on mutual runs and it's going to be throughout the city depending upon the needs.
It's going to run throughout the city.
Yeah.
And throughout the mutual aid.
And the other
There
thing
is.
as well, you got to keep in mind, we got 2 big developments happen on Newport Avenue, Newport Avenue development, which they've already started breaking ground on. And then we have the Capiano whenever that decides to come up as well. So I don't think we should be placing ourselves behind the 8 ball because once those developments starts, it's going to just be
Absolutely.
more of a
I agree.
demand. Hopefully not, but we want to be prepared for that demand.
Yes.
Any questions from the council? Other
I have
questions?
a few questions.
Please.
So how much money in mutual aid do we pay out average annually?
Do we pay out?
Correct, like, obviously we get mutual aid from Seekonk, right, or Pawtucket?
Right.
What do we
Sometimes
pay them?
we have a forgiveness program, so our residents won't get billed by Seekonk. And we
But
do
we
the
have to
same for
pay,
them.
but there is a cost to the city,
There is we do lose money as they come in.
correct? How much is that?
It's not a city, I don't know right off the top of my head. I can get you that number.
Because I know we've had discussions on this many times before, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the number was around 300,000.
It could be,
year.
we have a PowerPoint presentation for the council ready to go
Yep.
regarding the fourth rescue. We've had a few before,
You did.
but it is updated with all those numbers.
Is there any way we can see that at some point, Council
Absolutely.
President?
Oh, sure.
We can do it we can do it next council meeting, if you like.
The line item for maintenance and signal system, no, I'm sorry, repairs
Yeah.
/ building, that went up 101,000.
Right, our buildings are literally falling apart. We plan on suing one of the builders on the Station 4 project. So,
Can you explain when and what is falling apart?
Station 4, the facade,
Mhm.
the bricks are coming out and they're falling down on one side of the building. And we're trying to get an emergency repair as soon as possible. We don't want to go through another winter. I'm worried about mold getting into the building.
Is that Wampanoag Trail?
That's Wampanoag Trail.
Okay.
It was renovated 6-7 years ago.
Why can't that money come out of capital improvement versus being a line item add-on to the fire department's budget?
It can.
Oh,
It can, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Malcolm, we have over $6 million in unencumbered capital improvement projects to date, correct, roughly?
If you look at this list, a lot of this is maintenance of facilities, elevator service, oil separator. You've got a bunch of little items here. You get into really fall under capital versus sort of repair and maintenance. If there's some big ticket items in there, we could move it into capital.
So keep scrolling down, Malcolm, where it gets into the numbers.
I don't know if there's numbers, this one, he just gave a list of the,
So below.
No, down further. Scroll down.
Scroll down
There
the
you go.
screen.
Yeah, there
There
you
we
go.
go. There's the numbers.
right here, but I think
Numbers,
we're
yeah.
looking for, if you, scroll back up. So this is just the itemization. So, when you look at what makes up this 254 here, it says see itemization, here's the itemization. Normally, I would see numbers in the budget.
I have the numbers here.
So, but, so here are the dollar amounts here, 156, 25, Providence. So you can see.
And this Station 4 issue just came up within the last month or two during these budget proceedings.
So you can see most of this is relatively small, if there is, it says maintenance.
So the maintenance of the facilities is $156,000.
The others,
And it's broken down, but
And
I
it's
see
broken
it's
down,
itemized.
elevator service,
From elevator,
2,500,
station 3, oil, water.
oil,
that-
water separator at Station 3.
But that $101,000 increase is to fix that facade.
No, that's not even part of this. That's not even part of this. The rest is Station 2 rooftop air conditioning, that's a large one, that's 23,000. Station 4 ductless AC, that's 25,000. Painting the fire training facility, that's 3,500. Replacing emergency replacement of a ductless unit at Station 2, that was 7,200.
So going back to the facade issue.
Yes.
Structural issue, right? I remember when the building was effectively rebuilt, right? I mean,
Correct.
it wasn't really a reno, they pretty much knocked down the old one and
Correct.
put that up.
There was additions put on.
And that was.
This facade was part of the project.
ERA funds that funded that project, right? Was
Correct.
Okay. So, given the timeline, and my recollection is right along with yours, it was 6-7 years ago. What do we have in terms of warranties on the work that was done? I mean, there's got to be something in there that's got a 10-year warranty or something. I mean, that's typical for roofs and stuff. I can't imagine something's planned to fall apart within 6 or 7
Well,
years.
Part of the problem is it wasn't built to spec. It's missing components. It was put together quickly during the winter, and now we have an issue.
I feel like I've heard that before.
And you got a CO,
Excuse me?
and obviously you received the certificate of occupancy as well.
Yes, that was 6-7 years ago when they took possession of the station.
But we don't see that number in this budget
No.
anyway.
No.
All right. So certainly I would expect us to exhaust all possible remedies by way of, okay.
Right now, we're working with Ed Catelli. He has a contractor ready to go for an emergency repair, and then we're gonna go after the builder. That's the plan.
Malcolm, at the pension board meeting, there was we talked about the increase due to the new mortality table being around 1.2 million. And I noticed that this line item 52209 has that increase of 795,000. Is the other half of that or the other quarter of that being placed in the police budget?
local pension. So you want, 2.2 254, so you went 550,000, here's your other half.
Okay.
So you went from 2.4 to 3.0, so
Why is the fire more? Is it because the percentage was lower in funding?
correct. Years ago, we had the Google settlement, the police put in $50 million to there, so we went 60% funded where the fire was 30.
Okay. And the other question I have, Chief, is the tools and equipment from 77,000 to 150,000.
And what number is that?
That is 56102.
What was that, 50, what is it?
Oh, yeah, 56102.
56102, okay. I can hardly see the screen, I'm blind. So I have my cheat notes over here.
13,000, 2 loads of hoses, 33,
Right, I have
body
it.
armor, 41,000. City big ones, 12,000, extrication tools, hand tools, and 24,000 for the thermal imaging cameras.
Right. And that's for 30 thermal imaging cameras that are gonna go on our air packs. They're $800 a piece.
The technology software increase, what is that? That's the second one, third one up from the bottom.
57,311.
You're talking about 57311?
That's,
Yes, 57311, correct.
Right. The 18,000, there's 18,000 for Central Square, that's the IMC CAD. These are all programs that we have within the department. CrewSense, that does our payroll and our sick leave and overtime. ERS is another program that we have. These are all annual payments. The Ambu Pro, that's the reporting system for the rescues when they do a patient report. And Target Solutions, that's our training program. And the SimU Share, that's a interactive training. You can take a picture of it, build, say, City Hall, and you can create some type of incident, and we run our new offices through that program.
So that is separate from the CAD system
Yes,
from last year?
yes. In Symposium, that's our new CAD program that we're looking to put in dispatch. For
But that's already-
on the fire side.
That's already purchased from last
That's
year?
not purchased yet. We're gonna be using capital, some of the capital money in this year's capital to purchase that program.
From the previous budget, the 75,000 approved?
Right, the 75,000 was part of our capital this year, not next year.
2021.
21.
Okay.
And there was 6,000 that was taken out of there and moved to line item 760 dispatch. Dispatch has been broken out into its separate. And some of our costs in the fire department are going towards that dispatch 760 line item. I believe last year we had a re-chassis rescue, which we're gonna get delivered, and we had that $75,000 as capital.
Yeah, you had it left over from last year, 75,000
Yes,
from the 145, right?
I believe so.
Because the chassis was approved, 145,000
Yes,
for the
yes,
re-chassis.
yes, and that rescue's coming in the next month or so.
So there's still, it came in $75,000 under?
Right, so that, no, the 75,000 was for the program, for the dispatch program, the CAD
Correct.
dispatch.
But that's been used already. That's been utilized.
No, it's still encumbered.
Okay.
So was it not approved? I mean, I thought we didn't approve it, or you just haven't purchased it?
We haven't purchased it.
So it's
We're on-
just back
we
on-
just received the contract this
Okay.
week.
But it's in our budget now again for reuse?
That is the annual cost of it,
Okay.
the 22,000.
Okay. I just had a couple of questions regarding the line items for the clothing allowances. So we have 11.2. There's an increase in 18,000, and then we go down to uniforms and apparel supplies, and that's 81,000 increase.
Right, and that's all CBA, all clothing, it's all part of the contract.
Okay.
Chief, that 782,000, the first line item for regular salaries, that increase is also due to the 8 new firefighters that will station the Rumford
No, that's not
rescue,
part of
correct?
it. That's still not part of, that's just
That's
the
not part of
regular
that?
meeting that we have as is right now.
That's just to meet the contractual obligations?
Correct.
Where on this, is that number for those 8 firefighters on there?
No, we're banking on the FEMA grant.
Okay.
And that
How long would that grant last us till?
3 years.
3 years?
So it'll give us fully fund that 4th rescue with 8 people for 3 years.
And then after the 3 years, we can expect to see greater than, obviously, in 7.2 added to this budget for
Correct.
those firefighters.
Correct.
We should also expect over the next 3 years that there will continue to be retirements, et cetera.
Absolutely.
I don't have any other questions.
Any other questions for the chief? Doesn't appear that way, chief. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Look forward to that presentation. Moving right along to police. Which is page 100, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of detailed reports on 102. Chief Nevis.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. We'll do, while you're up here as well, we'll do animal control.
Okay.
We can do both of them. That's all right with you. Your proposed budget appears to be less than what it was the last fiscal year.
A lot of it has to do with the relocation of our dispatch center.
Okay.
So we used to pay overtime, training, and everything, salaries, benefits for all dispatch. Came completely out of the police budget.
So right off the back, I'm gonna ask you, are you satisfied with this budget that's being proposed
Yes.
here this evening? All right, and I just wanna make sure that there's not gonna be any defunding the police in East Providence here, I could say. Okay. You may proceed, chief, if you want, or we have any questions for the chief, by the way?
Who's covering the communication department? Is that still under the dispatch?
It would be a joint effort between police and fire. Hopefully they'll have their own supervisor someday to do their own budget.
So who? Right, I noticed that. So who's going to be speaking on that?
Chief.
The chief.
Chief, when I look at these, when I compare the two, I'm looking at 700, and I'm looking at the other department, which is Public Safety Communications, 760. There's a decrease in your budget of 522,000. However, if you look at this dispatch new department, there's actually an increase of 657,000.
I believe Chief Quick just alluded to a few expenses from your budget that went in there.
No, this is the communication budget, separate.
But the fire had reduced some of their budget as well to contribute to communications.
Correct, but this is, this communication budget is $1.1 million. And this concept of, first of all, where's this new communication center going to be at? Where's it going to be located?
Station 3, in 2002, when the building was dedicated, there was a room originally intended to be a dispatch center. Obviously, it's completely out of date now, but it's going to be renovated and used as a dispatch center.
So where are we in this process? Is it just a theory? Is it a practical?
There's been discussions. There hasn't been any active movement or purchase orders or training or designs for the new room yet.
So is there any a feasibility study done on
Not
this?
that I'm aware of.
Is there a cost-saving study done for the taxpayers?
Not by us. That would be whoever created this new budget could answer those questions.
Being a cop for over 20 years myself, when I started thinking about this, I started thinking of as a supervisor for 13+ years, when an incident happens and I'm the OIC, how I have the close relationship with that dispatch center and being right over their shoulder and monitoring what's going on and, sending and even sometimes even helping out with the phone lines, depending on the situation, how busy. By moving this dispatch center out of police headquarters, how is that going to be a service to our residents? I feel as if they're going to be missing out. There's going to be a disconnect there.
There are a lot of questions. Like I said, this is new. I mean, I'd rather leave them where they are, but there's reasons for bringing them somewhere else as well. It's a more comfortable area for them. They have their own kitchen, their own locker rooms. It was essentially originally built to house dispatchers. As far as having a supervisor go in, I agree. We've done that. Our OIC's office is right behind the dispatch center. So they do go in, and it is helpful because you can interject at proper times, whether it's radio traffic that you're listening to halt and telephones will stop ringing. You can kind of see when you can get a word in edgewise with dispatch and say, hey, set the officers up on this particular street to cordon this area off, terminate this pursuit because I haven't heard a reason that is according to our policy yet. The sergeant hasn't terminated it, but we want us to terminate it. They're a good thing. So we would have to either establish a direct line to the dispatch center in Rumford where it's an open, say like intercom type of line, or we would just have to have an OIC go up there, or their supervisor, depending on who their supervisor turns out to be, may be the type of person that could interject in both police and fire instance.
How many dispatchers would man the new dispatch center?
I would assume the same.
How many supervisors?
One. How many supervisors were you discussing?
This is not in the budget. This has nothing to do with this budget that presented.
Actually, it has a lot to do with this budget because the police budget is what we're discussing. The reduction in this budget is $522,000. There's a reason for that. It's great that there's a reduction here, but that money has now been moved to a whole brand new budget, which falls on right here, the chief, in explaining this next segment, which is public safety and communications. So it is part of this budget discussion. We cannot just not have a discussion about this. There's an increase essentially to the police budget of $657,000. We have a dispatch center that I'm not saying I'm against, but I'm just saying that there hasn't been any thought process into this movement. It's a big deal to move a dispatch center and taking the dispatchers out of a police department. I know from experience. I'm speaking from experience. We need that direct line of communication with the dispatchers. It just doesn't seem as if this was proposed to us, it should have been, feasibility study should have been done. What is the cost savings? What is it going to cost us overall? We should know all of this before we vote on making this change, because the change is not permanent.
Council President,
So, just 1 second, please. I'm almost done.
the councilman
with that
is
said,
incorrect.
I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet.
One that was taken out.
Point of order, I am not done yet,
Okay, Councilman, you got it.
okay? This is our show, not yours.
Okay, go right ahead.
Remember that.
Are we
So
here
to
to ask
have-
questions?
so
or
to
are we
have-
here to
This is a
have-
political game for him.
Yep, so to have a vote on something of this magnitude, we need to have the facts, and that's all I'm asking. I'm not saying I'm against or for it, I just need the facts before I make an educated decision to spend another $657 this year and additional monies in the years to come. That's all.
Okay.
Right.
Also, you were saying that, and he's correct, that the police budget went down 500, but you moved, say, 1.1 over there. So there was a $600,000 increase. And that's made up of two things. One was the pension increase, which was $550,000. And if you look, we put in, the mayor put in 2 extra people that were funded through ARPA money. So between the two, that's what made up that extra $600,000.
What are the 2 extra people? What positions?
2 dispatchers. So what we did is, we moved all of the funding that was for the dispatchers, because dispatchers dispatch for police and fire here in East Providence. And the police department, they had it in their budget where all the dispatch costs was coming out of their budget. It really wasn't fair to the police department, and it wasn't really transparent to see what the communications was costing us. The dispatchers should be controlled equally by police and fire. And that's what we're trying to establish here, is a transparent process that shows you exactly what the cost of communications is. Last year, we did not fund, we funded 10 dispatches. This year, we're funding an additional 2 dispatches. The money that was moved out of police is the money that's in the dispatch account. There's no funny business going on. The reason why the decrease in the police department side doesn't match what the decrease of the, what the actual dispatch budget is because 2 things. 2, there's 2 additional dispatches there, and 3 is what Malcolm just mentioned, that there were increases, other increases to the police budget, including pension increases, that shows their overall decrease less than the actual cost of what the dispatch communication cost is. So there's nothing going on here. The proposal to move dispatch to Station 3 is being done for efficiency, for better control by both divisions, and also what we feel will, in the long term, be a situation that serves the community much better. Now, the police department has come to me in the past about outgrowing their station. There's no way we can afford to build a new police station. By moving dispatch to an actually a location that was designed to be a dispatch center, by moving dispatch there, which is central communications dispatch, it's dispatch for police and fire, you're going to open up significant square footage that the police department will now be able to utilize for other uses and other purposes. We have vetted this thing with the Rhode Island State Police and with the people who are involved in controlling RILETs and NLETs and all that other stuff, and we've gotten their blessing on that. Now, we haven't made any moves yet, and we will eventually bring something more substantial to you, but we are looking at making that move. In the long run, it'll be better control, better training. You're going to have the fire department have a little bit more input and control over dispatches that 50% of their duties are doing police, 50% of their duties are doing fire. So it's a situation that we vetted out, and that's the direction the administration would like to go in. But there's nothing in this budget that is affected by this move. There's nothing at all in this budget. That's why I was saying this discussion regarding dispatch moving to Broadway, to a place that was designed to be a dispatch center, there is nothing in this budget that affects that whatsoever. So trying to make that a political issue and trying to make that an issue that's not an issue is why I came up to speak. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
First of all, it's not a political issue. Second of all, our main job as council people here is to make sure that the budget is, affordable for every taxpayer. That's our main goal. I didn't say there was any funny business. All I asked was 3 simple questions. Is this a theory stage, planning stage, or practical application? We do everything in the city. We take steps to make sure that the taxpayer dollars are spent correctly. When we do a project, we do an RFP. We do feasibility studies. We didn't just build a high school from one day to the next. There was a lot of work that went into that, a lot of study, and a lot of time and effort as to how the money would be spent well. Do we have a feasibility study for this? Do we know how much it's going to cost? Do you know how much it's going to save the taxpayers? Are the unions on board? Is the police chief on board? I don't know if he's gonna, answer that question. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. When you do simple math, it looks to me as if it's an increase actually of 657,000. That's how I look at the increase. You have a new line item that's 1.1 million. And you have a new department that was just created, a new budget item department that was just created, that's called 760-Public Safety. Where did that money come from? Only 500,000 was moved from the police department, not $1.1 million. So,
Council President, I don't know how many times I can say this and how I can explain it clearer to you. That money that's in that budget was moved from the police department and a little bit from the fire department. And the reason why, when you look at the overall police department budget, you don't see a $1.1 million decrease in their budget is because there were other increases to the budget. For instance, pension. So that's part of that whole budget. That increase of the pension is in the budget. So when you look at the police department budget, you don't see a 1.1, you're not going to see the exact amount that was for communications personnel is not going to be reflected in the police department budget because they've got other increases that have increased it. In addition to that, I'm telling you that we're funding now 12 dispatches as opposed to funding 10 dispatches previously.
I'll look through the line items myself, but either way, we still need we need concrete analysis as to if this is going to benefit the city in the long run, or is it going to cost, or is it going to save? That's all I'm asking.
So I have two questions. I don't want to belabor this, but we've opened up the discussion on the dispatch center. I know a lot of us, Mayor, you weren't here. Chief, you may have been here in the department, but not as a chief. And I recall 7 years ago or so, the new station was built and there was talked about there will be a communication center, a dispatch center, police and fire. It never happened. Do we know why? What was the original plan and why did it sit there? I had heard something about the building wasn't suitable physically at the time, but why are we at this point where that was the plan and it never happened?
I don't think it was 7 years ago. It was a longer time ago. It was I think Paul Lamont was city manager at the time.
Okay, longer.
And I don't want to speak for him, but at the time, I believe it was cost and personnel. And I don't know what his plans were, if it was going to be dedicated dispatchers for just fire and dedicated dispatchers for just police. That I don't know.
Okay, so, and I'm concerned about safety. So I call 911 from my home. And where does the 911, which is a statewide center, right? How do they get in touch and decide if it's fire or police in East Providence? So give two quick scenarios. If it's a medical emergency or it's a police emergency. Someone's in my yard stealing my car.
They ask the caller when you call. Usually the first thing they do ask is this police or fire? And then 911 directs it wherever it belongs.
So-
Here we have a combined center, so it'll be one number, but they can have two numbers designated. If it's fire, they'll call a direct fire line.
Do they have any input in this? Have you heard from the 911 administration?
I have not.
Would they prefer to make calls to two places or one?
I don't know if they would weigh in on that. I'm not sure. They didn't reach out to me.
Okay, thanks.
Just for the councilman's information, the symposium software that the fire department will be implementing soon, and I think the new statewide dispatch system that the police are looking to get into eventually, will have the ability now, when a call comes into 911, automatically they hit a button and it populates on your screen. And this symposium software that the fire department is looking to launch will actually cut down response time to medical emergencies, because now 911 gets the call, they're punching it into the screen, it's populating into our screen. That's going to be that much quicker. The call will still come through, but that information is already popping up, it's populated, and they can dispatch.
Thank you. How are you doing on staffing, Chief, with the retirements, openings? Are we at staff? Are we below?
No, we're not going to be there for years. I just left Martin Middle School where probably 30 potential recruits were there for information. So far, we have 68 applicants and 9 lateral transfer requests. We tend to, and there's one more week left in this recruiting process, we tend to see a majority of the applications come in last minute for whatever reason. So hopefully that number doubles. But it's a while, this started years ago when they had layoffs. You can lay off salesmen, and then the next day the economy's better and you can hire 10 salesmen back. But when it comes to police, when you lay people off, it's a year process. By the time you advertise for people, do the testing process, the vetting process, the background checks in the academy, and then their training, it's a 1-year process. And in that 1 year, when you try to bring someone back, you're losing, as the councilor mentioned earlier, unexpected retirements, injuries, and people who just don't want that. We just lost a patrolman for a short time that just wanted to get out of law enforcement. He was a new person, and you're losing existing people because it's a different job than they anticipated.
How many are you expecting to lose within this year, the remaining part of this year? Because we got that cutoff with the age as well.
Probably 3 definites, and I would venture to, if we're factoring in like budgets, maybe a half dozen others unexpected. We have, I think, up to 30 that are eligible to go at a moment's notice. So we're approaching 50% now that we're in the 80s. I mean, it's almost 50% of the department can go tomorrow.
If you just do the simple math, if you've got 100 policemen, and they put in 25 years, they're losing 4 a year. So realistically, you start the class almost every year.
Right.
So for the next meeting, can we get Malcolm a mic as well, just so he can hear, or we can hear? I don't think that will fit or reach. We don't have to worry about it right now.
Chief, just one more question. This will be the 3rd year in a row that I've asked this question. That detail pay, the 1.2 million, why do we need that in a line item? And we seem
Where
to
Malcolm's
be,
microphone comes in handy. It's basically just, it's an area to allow the city to pay the officers before the vendor pays their bill.
Tell them to yell.
And that account is always replenished with the revenues that we take in, which for the past, I don't know, Malcolm, how many years, 10 years or so, or maybe more, has always been an increase. It's been a surplus.
has there been issues where it's gone over 1.2 million?
I do not know.
There's been issues where there's been a $1.2 million in outstanding detail pay to officers. Because this money is there to pay the officers, and then the municipality waits for the vendor to pay the municipality, correct?
I think, at one point, I remember one vendor alone it was a $600,000 bill. It was a huge project in the city.
Is there an admin fee attached to each detail?
I
That's being
don't think we're
deducted.
doing that yet. We did raise the detail rate to what we're charging the companies as opposed to what we're paying out. We raised that $5 an hour.
What was your question, Councilman Morado?
That
Admin fee?
1.2 million, that's detail pay.
No, your last.
Major, do you remember the admin fee?
Was there an
There's an
admin
admin
fee?
fee.
I don't think
Okay.
they're doing one. Admin fee? Yeah, I don't think they're doing the admin fee.
Chief, last question for me. How are we doing on I don't know if it's needs to be budgeted, but the Bristol County Water Authority project with us, and we were supposed to provide the police detail supervision. Do we have, I know they've substantially started. Do we have enough to cover that? Has that been?
When you say provide, you mean the city's paying out of pocket without being reimbursed by Bristol
I
Water?
think that was yes, that was part of our contribution. We would be paying for the details. We're not paying for any of the project, the pipes.
Well, I noticed last year's surplus, I believe on the screen was 175,000, and this year's half year we're at 185,000, so we're a little bit ahead of last year in surplus, so I would say we're covering.
We're covering. Thank you.
As a city,
Detail's definitely been there. Seen them every day.
as a city, have a department ever looked into an admin fee to attach to each detail, like other municipalities?
We haven't, only because we've had such surplus already with the discrepancy of paying, say, for instance, traffic control officers versus billing the company at the rate of a police officer, and for cruiser fees.
If that admin fee was added, wouldn't that, in a way, keep funding, putting that into that surplus, then eventually pay those officers while they wait for, while the city waits for their money from the vendor?
I mean, theoretically it could, but there's been years that we were $600,000-700,000 in surplus. So that just goes back into the general fund. If we were able to keep that money with the police department, then yes, your question would be, we could remove that line item, but we turn it over each year to the general fund.
Mr. President, I would just say that part of any budget process are narratives. That's right, not all X's and O's. And I just want to commend you, Chief, Assistant Chief, the staff, keeping East Providence safe. We read where every once in a while, whether it was the car issues in driveways, that we were able to solve that. We live close to capital city where there's a lot of stuff going on, and I know you've been vigilant, and the department has. That goes in line with X's and O's. You know, we're paying and we're getting service. So I'm one person that just wants to say thank you.
I appreciate the feedback, and I tell you, the city does get what they pay for with this police department. Now imagine doing all that proactive policing and coming up with the arrests and the things that they're doing. The car lots commend us all the time too, because they have those motion activated cameras, and every time it goes off, they notice it's because there's an officer checking their lots. So doing this 4 days a week, working 16-hour days, you tend to want to say, hey, listen, I've had enough of this, but these guys are they're going strong every single night, and they haven't given up.
It's noted. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys do a wonderful job.
Thank you.
That's for sure.
Fire chief, of course, ditto. Yeah.
Chief, you want to stay up here for an animal shelter, which is on page 103?
I can speak to it, but I put all my faith into Will Muggle, who's been, coming within his budget annually, and he provided these figures, and there was no reason for me to doubt any of them.
Well, let's take a look and see if the council has any questions. It's actually on page 105, the actual proposal, detailed proposal. There's a slight increase in the overall budget. However, just as council members have an opportunity to review it, does anyone have any questions with respect to any of the line items that either the chief can either address, or we can have Muggles address it at another time?
No questions from me.
I don't have any.
None? Okay. Chief, thank you.
Harbor Master?
Harbor Master.
Harbor Master? That comes under you?
Yes.
Okay. Again. 107, page 107. Harbor Master proposal.
Mark, would you mind bringing that up?
Is this,
Harbor Master?
looks like a slight increase
It's not gonna help.
from the budget year 21. However, does anyone have any questions?
Just one general question, and Chief, I don't even know if you can answer this, but I know last year was a bit of a weird year on the water. A lot of people were in boats and stuff because they couldn't do anything else. Is there a change year on year, or we're seeing the same kind of volume, same kind of incidents, or?
That goes directly from the Harbor Master to municipal court. So I'm not sure what the increase in fines were or anything.
Okay.
I know he did leave some money open in the budget for us to have police officers on the boat, because sometimes when they find an impaired operator, what they'll have to do is they'll have to go to the shore, call an officer from the street to go address the issue. But we're looking for that, especially with the waterfront concerts. We had some issues, kids doing drugs in rowboats and things that the Harbor Master was uncomfortable addressing. So we have some money in the budget, this budget, to accommodate.
You have my support on that.
officers.
Do you have anything, is the Harbor Master also working with respect to the construction site on the Henderson Bridge? Because there's a lot of barges and a lot of movements over there.
Not that I know
Do they
of.
get involved with that?
Not that I know of.
Okay. They do get involved with the concerts though, or Live Nation?
Yes, this year not so much because of I don't know whether it would be the crowds or the limited number of shows, but when the concerts are in full swing, they're out there.
So, and we can expect that to grow over the next several years as well as that area is developed over there in the South
Right, in
Cape.
addition to the
So-
concerts, the whole waterfront arts district is increasing every year with activity, with boating. Looks like the removal of the bridge project is coming along. So it's going to be nothing but an increase in boating activity, and harbor masters are critical. It seems like a modest increase to face the future demands.
Right, and as a city, it's nice for the boaters to know that somewhere in that area is a harbor master, so they're not driving the boats erratically, especially in this water when there are a bunch of obstacles that if you're not from the area,
Right.
you can collide with.
What, and I don't know if you're gonna know this question, this answer, Chief, but what type of maintenance are we looking to do on any of the vessel that we have? 'Cause I
That
know
would
it's a
be for
pretty
Bruce.
old.
Was there an increase in the maintenance?
Well, looks like we haven't used any to date, but there's still a line item for 10,000, so I'm
They
just.
come in waves because what it is he winterizes them to put them away, and then he gets them ready when it's time to launch them. So that's probably why it's still sitting there.
And who are we paying the docking fee to?
I don't remember offhand.
Because there was an increase in that too.
I believe,
I wanna say Lavins,
Councilwoman,
but
that
it's
there's a
not
couple of
Lavins anymore.
marinas there because city doesn't really own a marina. They need to keep the boat in the water for, obviously, emergencies. So between the couple of marinas that are there, I think they get a discounted rate, but they do have to pay a docking fee.
No, I know they have to pay
Yeah.
a docking fee.
Yeah, so
and I
it's
know
one of
that
those
it's
two.
docked.
I don't know if it's
Well, it's always
the,
docked in the same spot, which is past the yacht club.
Yeah.
In between that and Bull Point Park, it's always in the same spot. I'm just wondering who that,
which one it is.
who, yeah, who
I thought it
owns
was
that
down by
piece.
Haynes Park.
So which boat?
It used to be Lavins. I don't
Okay.
remember.
Yeah, that's the fire
what it
boat.
is now.
Okay. So it comes out every day in the summertime? Does it have, like, what are the,
I'm not sure how the docking fees are billed. I would assume it's seasonal.
yeah,
I think we get a bill once a year, and I do believe you said that this is the first time in a number of years that the docking fees have gone up.
sure.
If you look at it for the last few years, it hasn't really changed, so they finally bumped it up a little bit.
If there's no other further questions for the chief, thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time and your input. Might as well move right along to finance.
Sure.
Malcolm's
I actually
here.
have one question for the mayor, if I could.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, on overall, last year we saw a really large increase in medical insurance, what we were paying in premiums. What does that look like year on year this year?
This year's increase, there was an increase in medical, but it was much smaller. Malcolm, was it like 5.5%, I believe is what it was. But the previous year, you're correct, we had a significant increase that added to the budget. So this year, we were fortunate not to get impacted by that.
And that's the same rate, it's the same insurance plan for all city employees?
Yes, we go through, that's correct, right, Malcolm?
I know the school department is different, but
Yeah.
Right, so over, when they do it, everybody goes up. So the whole-
okay.
I do have one more question regarding the public safety communication. It's probably going to be for the mayor. The overtime, so you're seeking 2 additional positions that are budgeted in the regular salary, and then we have an overtime line. Where would we be if we're increasing the amount of employees in that department, why would the overtime be so high?
There's always going to be vacation time. You know, we hire dispatchers, they last for a little while and they don't work out, and there's always vacancies. And also, we want to engage in more training on the EMS side of things. That's one of the things I believe, according to our fire department, and Chief can speak on this more, is we haven't been doing as much EMS training for our dispatchers as we should. And I think there's a new law that just passed recently that requires dispatchers to be certified at a different level. We're doing EMS dispatching. So they worked that into the budget to make sure that we had enough money to pay for training
But where is that in the budget?
in the overtime budget.
Is that the employee assistance, or is that in the fire's budget?
No, that's in the whole
Part of the
budget.
overtime?
Yes.
And Chief, if you could answer that question, expand on that question, what type of EMS training are they looking to give dispatchers?
Right now, it's a new law in the state, emergency medical dispatcher, EMD. And we're looking to certify them as EMDs and telecommunication specialists, 1 and 2.
So what would
We
they,
want to certify them as dispatchers. That's what we're looking at.
and what extra do they have as certified dispatchers, EMS dispatchers?
It's a program that we're looking into right now.
But
We're in
what
the-
differently would they have that they don't have now, other than a
They are not
certification?
EMDs, and I'm not sure if they're fully certified dispatchers. Telecommunicator 1 and 2.
So other than the name,
Right.
what criterias, what credentials do they have? What
I don't
knowledge and
know.
expertise
I am not the boss of them.
of
We
who?
co-share right now, but
Oh,
right now, they don't have any certified.
right, what would that certification be, though? I know the work,
Attending some sort of a class with so many hours
to learn what?
to learn how to become an emergency medical dispatcher. They will be able to, if anybody calls in, tell the person how to, instruct the person how to do CPR,
Okay,
dislodge choking victim.
so essentially guide them through a phone call of how to address the emergency
As
until
EMS is
somebody
responding.
gets there. Okay,
Correct.
all right, that's the answer I was looking
That's
for.
the answer you're looking for?
Yes, yes,
Sorry,
what's the
because this is all
cost?
new for me.
What's the cost and what's the need for, like, I understand the need for a course, you want to be able
Right.
to direct somebody until EMS gets there so that you
Right,
can,
so-
save the person, but,
And part of that overtime was for all that training. For
Now, and
12
that's not-
dispatchers and, and then the telecommunicator 1, telecommunicator 2.
right. And that's a great thing, service to have.
It is.
Is that going to be a requirement of all 12?
I would believe so.
Okay,
Again, I'm not the boss, but if I had my way, absolutely. I want the best people dispatching.
right, certainly. And Mayor, you said you don't know who the boss of that is yet. So that'll be another position or somebody from either
Not a
department?
position. What we want to do is we want to define command structure for our dispatchers so that there's unified command. The police and the fire will have equal access to offer trainings, conduct trainings, and ensure that they're trained to the fullest capabilities and requirements by state law. So what I found in this short period of time is that we have wonderful dispatchers. However, the fire department, in communicating with me, brought to my attention that the emergency medical portion of the dispatching, the policies, the procedures, the things that go along with that, really had never really been a priority because they felt that they had been housed in one location and overseen by a police captain, and it was mostly like a police type of structure with the dispatchers.
Right.
What we want to do is create a situation where both the police and the fire have, we're actually putting together some policies and procedures on how to address that, but the police and fire will have equal control over it. Now, if that means down the road that we may need to promote one of the dispatchers to be a supervisor also in the room, or to come up with something else, we may address that down the road. But right now, we're looking at using a facility that was designed for dispatch, putting it to full use, and creating more space for our police department at the police headquarters.
With that being said, we'll move on to our final department, finance, and which we can cover on page, what page do we have here? 33, which is the proposed budget detail. And under finance, Malcolm, would like to cover
Yes.
tax collection,
Yeah, we'll
tax
go,
assessment,
yep, we'll start off with the,
and debt service. Is that all right?
we can do that service too.
Okay.
On finance, there's about a $30,000 increase, and really that's salary and benefits. If you look at the top line, it's about 18,000, and I have 3 people that are in steps. So if you're an EPP or Steelworkers Union, in the first 3 years, there's steps. It takes you 3 years to get the top step. So there'll be more than just a 2% increase in, so that's why that number looks a little bit high. Also in medical, with the 3 new people, it looks like we went from a single to a family on one of those, because it went from 79,000 to 92. You know, again, if salaries go up, MERS goes up a little, FICA goes up a little. Besides that, there's not a lot of change, but I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Malcolm?
Question kind of segues into, excuse me, tax collector.
Okay, well,
Sorry about that.
that's finance and control, so if there's no questions, we can move right on into tax collection. So proceed with your question, Councilman.
All right, thank you, sir. So Malcolm, we dropped 1 FTE from 21 to 22 in the tax collector's department, correct?
Yes, and that was more of a housekeeping issue. The way it used to be was that certain departments, we would bill to water and sewer. And you'll see that, so engineering, DPW, and tax collection, we would allocate a % of their salaries. So we would send a bill over to water and sewer. Well, with ADP, you're allowed to separate the salaries. So like in DPW and highway, we bill 10% to water and 10% to sewer. So you'll see a decrease in their budget, just like you do in tax collection. So we were billing really 1 FTE out, 30,000 to water, 30,000 to sewer. So instead of sending them a bill, we just took the payroll and moved it over. So you'll see a corresponding reduction on the revenue side.
So the reason I asked that question is kind of a segue back to the finance department proper, if you will, right? And I noticed in 21, we had a procurement specialist on staff. In 22, I know we have someone who's doing procurements, but is not coded specifically as a procurement specialist. Do we lose anything in terms of expertise in moving away from a specific procurement specialty to someone who's doing procurements as, I don't want to say an additional duty, but in addition to whatever their regular job is?
We're currently vacant, at least on the finance side or control side. And so the procurement person is currently taking on additional duties. Once the new person starts in a couple of weeks, that person will go back to really doing procurement as full-time. There will be a couple of small other duties that went along with that, but the main function of her position would be procurement.
Because if there is one specialty, I think, in the city that other than police and fire, obviously, where we need to be fully staffed and we've never been able to get there. One position I would advocate for having an additional position, it would be an additional procurement specialist. You know, we see that that's the bottleneck every year. This year's a little bit weird because even when you can get RFPs out, a lot of times you can't get the stuff that you're looking to buy. But getting RFPs out, being able to, you know, open bids in the right way, being able to evaluate those things that are evaluated proposals versus, you know, just low cost, and being able to make the determination up front when we're buying something that maybe is not simple. You know, is this something that we're going to do as an evaluated proposal? Do we have the staff that we need, you know, sitting in and evaluating? Because I will tell you, it made the difference, you know, at the high school, right? And I've talked to a number of different building committees throughout the state and in Massachusetts where they've gotten something a little bit less than maybe they would have wanted, or something that wasn't ideal. And it was because, not that so much that they didn't do the work up front, but they didn't have the expertise in place to ask the right questions and then, you know, make the right decisions later. And I'm not making any aspersions about our own procurement operation. I just think that is, you know, as a government, I mean, government doesn't really do a whole lot. It buys a whole lot, you know, and we buy a lot of services. We buy a lot of things. You know, that's something that I would ask the mayor, you, Malcolm, as a finance department, consider. Do we need augmented specialist help in that area? I think we've seen indications that we do by way of capital, et cetera.
It's possible. Like I said, we get the new person starting. We'll have a full staff. This will be the first time in quite a while we've had a full staff, and it looks like it's a solid staff. Hopefully, we won't have any turnover, and so we can all settle into our roles. For a number of years, I kept saying we need to get everybody on board and get everybody comfortable, and then reassess actually who's doing what to see. Since we've changed all the systems over, it's possible that somebody may be doing more than somebody else just because of the way the systems are working. And so we may reallocate some of the duties around. But in a few weeks, that person will be going back full time. But you are correct. I remember when I got here about 9 years ago, that they were saying, why put anything into capital? We never have any capital, it's always denied. And so we didn't do an awful lot of bidding or RFPs, though with the change in the charter where we have the 1%, and now we've got still 6 million sitting there, there are a lot more projects out there, a lot more bids. You know, we did have a purchasing person and a clerk that went with it. We really only have one person now, the procurement specialist.
Councilman, I just want to, also what I've learned in my short time here is that a lot of these bids, for instance, we went out to bid for the lights. So the procurement specialist makes sure that everything gets done properly, but the engineering department has to get all the specs and all the engineering. And that's what sometimes, believe it or not, that it takes time to get done, even when we're doing like a bid for sidewalks or other major projects that you need to get all the specs together. We rely on different department heads and different engineers and specialists to put it together for the procurement specialist, who then makes sure that it gets done by the law.
Totally get it, right? I mean, that's
And
basically all I do day in and day out, right?
Yeah.
And I think the key is, because obviously, you know, I'm buying something on behalf of the government. I am generally not the expert, the subject matter expert in what, you know, we're buying satellite systems, we're buying, right, cyber stuff. I don't know anything about a lot of those things, but we need evaluators who do, right? And those are generally the people who establish the requirements, who are coming in at the back end and saying, did they fulfill the requirements? Are they bidding for the right stuff? And can they do this, right?
Exactly.
And so having the right kind of procurement leadership kind of sets the tone for those folks, like, okay, I'm going to need you for 5 dedicated hours on this week when those bids come in, right? So whatever you've got to do in your department, make the plans, right? And that's, it's more of an art than a science, right? And it's, you know, it's difficult to find those people. And I know I'm saying a lot of words, but I really think that that's a challenge that we've seen time. And I know you've been frustrated with it because you've come up here and we said, what the hell's going on with this capital project? Why isn't this spent? Well, we can't get the thing on contract, right? We either can't get the bid, we can't get the RFP out the door, we can't get it evaluated. I do think that that's something that would provide a lot of efficiency for the city.
We did look at some software recently, the mayor and I, and planning. And it had a lot of the things that the council has always addressed, you know, where are we at in the process? When's it starting? When's it going to get done? And so this had a whole budgeting package to it for capital. How to submit it, how to approve it, how to grade it. Then once it's done, you have sort of a timeline. You know, we want to go out to bid, we want to have it awarded, we want to have it started, completed, a CO type of thing. So you've got all of the little buttons that you would check as you go across. And then down here, it would also have a timeline. This is the date we plan on going out. This is when we think the bids will be open. This is when we think it'll be approved. And then you can put notes in there to say why you're delayed or you're ahead of schedule. And what's nice about it is that if you're interested in a certain one, you can give your email, and so anytime there's an update, it'll just blast out an email to anybody that's interested. So you know, it looked like we had Mr. Fazioli look at it because we do it all in Excel, all manual. And in this way, it's a lot more transparent. You can put it out there, you can see it, everybody can track it. So there's no more of, the council coming to us say, where are we at on this stuff? And so we're evaluating that, but it looked like it would have resolved a lot of these issues as far as who, what, where, when, how type of thing.
Last plug, and then I'll shut up. I would just say, as you're doing that calculus, right, and you're looking at the various positions and thinking, yeah, maybe we need one more Parks and Rec worker, maybe we need one more highway worker rather. I would advocate for consideration of, raising the priority of an additional procurement official, because I do think that would pay dividends.
Councilman, it is under the charter that the council does have the power to create administrative divisions and then set forth distribute work amongst that division. So if you felt that the finance department would be more efficient and felt like it would be beneficial to the city as a whole to have that type of position created, that is well within our purview to do so during this process.
Certainly, yeah, and thank you for that. And I would like to have a discussion with, with Malcolm and with the mayor regarding that before, jump to any conclusions and took any action. But I think that would help. I think it would make us a lot less frustrated too when we look at the capital year on year and we say, all right, we allocated this a year ago. What's going on? Why didn't this get done? Some of those procurement and one protest can blow your whole schedule, right? Because then you have to commit all that time. Okay, did we do everything the right way? Because it's a legal challenge.
Right.
So,
And to clarify, if you look on page 32, where it has the staffing, I think that you would reference, at least for the controls department, controller. The way the software works is it'll list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions. If you have more than 5, you get an other. And it'll tell you could have 1, 4, 8, 12 positions. That other position, I'll tell you, is the procurement specialist. So it's not listed, but that's the one that says other. If you look in, any other, like if you look to police, they would have 4 or 5, and then you'd have other that would have
50 others.
Yes.
Right. All right. So, excellent point taken. Everything I said stands.
Okay.
Still want another one, but.
Any other questions for Malcolm?
Just one question. Does the city have a project manager?
No.
So that software would be essentially a project manager, in a sense.
Yeah, when I think of a project manager, I think somebody that really goes out and inspects the works and oversees a lot of it. But this would help you at least keep track of where you're at in the process.
It's not a bad substitute, Councilman Morado, right? I mean, if you've got the software, right, and I assume we're talking like a Microsoft project type software, right, that builds Gantt charts, loads resources, all that type of stuff, right? And if somebody can use that competently, I mean, you can get 80% project management skills, right? I mean, you're not going to get the years of expertise and figure out problems like anything else, but you can get to the 80% level probably pretty well.
So the next question would be, who actually does the uploading and keeping track of where the projects are at what point in time? Is that someone that's already currently hired, or is that going to be a new addition, a new hire?
I think it would depend on what the effort would be, right? I mean, if you're talking about a complicated effort, yeah.
And you could also delegate it to whoever. A lot of times, like, we'll say, somebody goes, planning wants something. Well, planning draws the specs up, we'll put it together with all our boilerplate stuff, we'll put it on, and then, we could turn it back over to them, so they could run it. Or it could be, we haven't got that far, because we're just looking at the software, exactly how it would work. But if that's the idea we go, then we'd have to sit down and decide whether we would bring it, put it in finance with the procurement specialists and let them run it all, or would they run it in conjunction with the department, or would you let the department run with it once it's been awarded?
Yeah, there's another set of expertise, and not to get too far down the road, but something that the feds do in the state, and really state doesn't do, and really no municipality that I've ever seen, is the feds have this whole career field called contracting officer representative, right? The contracting officer is usually your procurement official, the one who is warranted to sign off. They're the only ones who can legally sign contracts. And then the contracting officer representative is somebody who has very specific training to make sure contract deliverables are received, right? Invoices are double checked to make sure. So they do a lot of the project management type duties. They generally have project management training. It's not something I found in a lot of municipalities. Certainly the state struggles with it. They haven't, you know, who's watching this contract? Oh, that guy, right? Well, where is he? Well, he's doing his regular job, you know, so that's generally what happens.
A lot of times that can be handled, if I'm not mistaken, by a program manager as well.
Yeah, its skills are largely interchangeable. Yep.
Okay, any other questions regarding tax collector? If not, we're gonna move right over to page 38, tax assessment.
I do.
And again, you'll see, it's a big expense. You go up 150,000. But the main one is if you look at 53,000, purchase professional, 150,000, that's because we have to do the revaluation. And if you look up in revenue, we get reimbursed 65% of that, 60% of that, I forget the exact amount. But so you'll have the offsetting revenue up there. Again, I think 3 of the 5 people in that office are on steps. So you'll see a little bit bigger increase than just the 2% in the regular salaries.
Can I just add something? So I just want to, so as you know, when I first got here, there were a number of tax appeals that were pending, and they were just sitting around for a lot of different reasons, but one of the reasons the court wasn't really paying much attention to them either. And within the last year and a half, the court assigned a specific judge to handle all the tax appeals throughout the state. I think we had about, I want to say 15 tax appeals that were pending, predated me. I think two have recently been filed within the last year or two. But Sarah has really been invaluable, and we've had to go through and you know, do some evaluations and hire experts to basically challenge some of the issues that are being brought up. So we're down to, well, you've voted on most of the settlements already. We had one trial, which I'm going to report on at next council meeting. And I think there are two left that predate me, and then there are 2 new ones, so we're down to 4. And that has taken a lot of Sarah's time because she has to appear in court. There have been settlement negotiations that are going on. So I just wanted to let you know. And I anticipate, because of the reevaluation this year, that they have 90 days from the filing of the bill, the getting of the tax bill, to file an appeal at the local level. Then it goes to the Superior Court. So generally, I don't know what the percentage is of how many people actually file a tax appeal in the city of East Providence, but there would probably be an uptick in that litigation just as a result of revaluation.
Yeah, people never want to hear that their houses went up in value.
not only houses, it's businesses, believe it or not, too.
Yeah.
I think they're just afraid that they're going to see a similar increase in their tax bill. They're afraid, oh my.
Absolutely
And
right.
you try to explain, if every house doubled, we're not going to double your tax bill. Your tax bill, the rate will be cut in half, but you'll pay the same amount.
Right.
And, you know, but that, you know, as I try to explain math to people in percentages, it kind of goes over their head sometime, but I think you would understand that, being a numbers person and all. But yeah, it's just a matter of how you do to the average. If the average went up 20% and yours went up more, you're going to pay a little bit more. If it went less than the average, you'll pay a little bit less.
Just wanted to let you be aware that we generally, when we settle the case or a court rules against the city, we take a credit on the future tax bill, so we give the person a credit, so there's no money out of pocket from the city other than we give them a credit. But in a couple cases, at least one case that we recently had there, the property owner did no longer own property in the city, so we had to actually give them a chunk of cash.
And our tax assessor, she was a recent hire. I think we did quite well in hiring her. She was a former employee here for a number of years. She left, she went somewhere else. Our position became available, she came back, and it's worked out really well for us. So I think it was a good hire by us.
Any questions regarding tax assessment?
Yeah, That was the revaluation that we have to do, that's due by 12/31.
All right, so we'll move on to our last one for finance and controls and accounts, which would be the debt service. And that,
51.
May I start, if it's okay? Mr.
yeah,
President?
please.
So we'll talk about the elephant, right, first. The high school restricted bond payment. Malcolm, can you, and you've explained this to me several times, I'm just wondering if you can lay it out for everybody again, because it does get confusing. Could you lay out the structure by which the bonds are being taken? And maybe talk a little bit about the interest rate that came along with those bonds?
Yes, when this all started, we were projecting about a 4% interest rate. And at the time, we thought that the city's share was going to be $9.2 million, I believe, as the net amount. And then we did a couple of things. We did a couple of band anticipation notes that we used. You don't want to go to do 3 or 4 bonds, it may be a little expensive, so you normally do bands first, then you roll it into one big bond. We got some low-interest financing through the infrastructure bank for $24 million. And so what we had to do was, the state was going to reimburse us 69% up, say, to the 101st, $35 million. So there was a delta between that and the 190 we were going to. So we were just going to have to pay normal interest rate on that. So we figured out that, well, some of those were efficiencies that we could go through that would meet the criteria for the infrastructure bank. So we took the 24 million and went over there and got some subsidized interest rates. And by the time that we went to bond, the interest rates came down to 2.06, I believe. So the interest rates came way down. And, it's also a factor of, 10 years ago, we had junk bond status, and now we have AA rated. And so that has an awful lot to do with that also. But that translates into, over the life of the bond, we're saving close to $50 million between all of those. And so, I mean, my understanding, every time we talk to the contractors and all, we're always on time and under budget, which is, almost unheard of these days. And every time we turn around, it was good news, and you just kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. And it doesn't look like it has. It looks like, we're doing just fine. We went out to bond. And so our payment, and the way this will work is that the total payment is going to be, $12 million. And then we'll get reimbursed by the state the following year at 74% of whatever we paid for principal and interest. Now, for us to get money in this fiscal year, we had to be substantially complete by June 30th, which we weren't. So what'll happen is, if you look at it, we'll be a little bit in the red this year and a little bit in the black last year or next year, because next year we'll double dip on the housing aid, because we're not getting much this year.
So Malcolm, I don't mean to interrupt you, but real quickly, just when you say total payment of $12 million.
Yes.
This year.
Next year. This year, we're paying, we're not paying the full amount. And we did that for the reason that I just said, is that if we had to pay $12 million and we weren't getting any back from the state, we were going to show, $5 or $6 million deficit. So we paid like interest only or a small principal for this next year. So that's why it's only 7.9 million versus the 12
million.
Yes.
So the reason, and as always with Malcolm, that's right, that's a lot, right? But the reason I wanted to highlight that is because when Malcolm presented this plan, 3-4 years ago, I wasn't 100% sure I was on board. I was more of an advocate for getting a bigger chunk of the bond up front
because I knew we eventually had to do it, and the bond rates were low. I think they were like 3.5, 3.7 or something at the time, and that was historically low at the time, but lo and behold, they went historically lower. So it turned out to be a really, really smart move. So I just want to make sure he gets the proper credit for that.
I think we all take a little bit of credit for that. I mean, some of it's timing, some of it's, just our finances helped out a lot, considering the conservative nature of the council and the budgets, and we've been able to build up reserves and have money for capital. All that bodes well in the bond rating. That's why we got a AA.
So we will project, and Councilman Morado asked me this question today, and I didn't have a good answer for it. And maybe you can answer this better, Malcolm. Having achieved the 74% incentive level, right, if you will. So that's 74% reimbursable of what they say is the reimbursable cost, which is $136 million. That's what they've always said is the reimbursable cost. Total cost of the project is 189. Total budget of the project is 189.5 million. The total cost is something a little bit south of that, a couple $1 million south of that is what the guaranteed maximum price is. So all of that said, when we go and seek, or when we have the opportunity to seek the 74% reimbursement from the state, that will be the point with the project is substantially complete. And the project will not be substantially complete for one more year, right? The schedule was building is ready for start of school, the 2021 school year. Everything else, to include grounds, et cetera, is complete by the end of the the start of the 2022. All of that. Well, demolition will be done fairly soon. The big thing is going to be the improvement of all the grounds, which is various turf fields, lighting, tennis courts, et cetera, and the entire kind of parking design and routing of the buses. So all of that is a substantial amount of work that has yet to happen.
So are they looking for greater than 80% to be reimbursed?
No,
Or-
you cannot get, so what the limit that they set is, our general housing aid rate is 54%, right? It's been like around 54% for years. It's changes every year slightly, but call it 54%. You get incentives in 5% blocks for doing certain things, like there's a STEAM incentive, there's an ADA incentive, there was an incentive for consolidating space. You can get up to 20% additional over your rate. So if we were in Barrington, for example, and their housing rate is, 18%, right, that they get, then they could only get up to 38% reimbursed on their school. So
last year, we allocated 5 million towards payment of the bond, that we weren't sure yet what was gonna happen, what we needed. So are you saying that we're not paying the 5 million this year, fiscal 21?
We are paying, actually, most of that, because when we paid off the bands and went to bond, we had to pay off the interest on that. And there is I do believe the first payment of interest only is about 2 million or 3 million, I think it's due in this month. So most of that will be paid. Originally, the way we were talking about doing is maybe pushing it off a year. But when we looked at it, all right, well, so, and a lot of it's really rather confusing, more confusing, because when the state says substantially complete by June 30th, and you get money in the next year, if we get it July, August, September, or October, it's still in our current year. So, so that's the way some of these worked out, is they're gonna say, like next year, we expect them to be substantially complete by June 30th, which we almost already are now. So they'll send us some of that payment, which we'll get in September, October. According to them, that'll be in the 23 year, but for us, it'll still be in the 22.
So isn't that the common practice anyway with the capital improvement from the school department, that you submit a project, you can get reimbursed for it? You don't get reimbursed for it until the following year?
that's how
not
it's
the actual
supposed to
year?
work. For years, you wouldn't be reimbursed for a very long time. over the past couple of years, the reimbursements have been very quick, especially if you go in and you get in under their shovel-ready program, right, where basically you have the drawings, you have the plans, you present it to them, and they go, oh, you're ready, right? And they're ready really with the reimbursement almost as soon as you finish the project. It's very quick. It's not, the next day, but it's not a year either, right? So that timeline has shrunk. I can't say that's what's going to happen here. This is a big chunk of money, right? And it's really never been done before. So we're the pioneers. But knowing that it's 74% versus question mark makes a big difference in our planning.
Yeah, and that has a lot to do with the school committee at that point in time, bringing it to the council's attention that, look, there was no other school or no municipality, I should say, that was out there going for a school bond. We were the only school in the state, we were the only school department in the state that was looking to build a school, a high school at that point in time to retrieve that money that was put aside from the current governor at that time.
Yeah, and the governor's bond, statewide bond that they went out with, that was also approved in addition to ours, was a $250 million bond. Now, keep in mind, with 74%, we're going to get close to $100 million of that $250 million, right? And there's billions of need in the state. There might be $1 billion worth of need in Providence, right? So getting out ahead of the curve was essential. Now you look at what is happening with building expenses over the last, year or so. And the curve was going like this anyway. When we started, I mean, someone could have built the same school that we built 7-8 years ago for half the cost.
And if I can interject, I was talking this weekend to a Gilbane financial manager who's been involved in our project. He's not boots on the ground there, but he's doing the numbers. And he said, what we have achieved and what we built, if we tried to do it today, by today's numbers, would probably cost $40 million or more additionally. Said no one will ever get the deal that we got. And that our whole timeline was perfect. That it's like those will say, car that you bought 20 years ago, what would it cost you today? If you tried to build a school, starting from today forward, would be astronomically higher than what we did. So we, some luck involved, I'm sure, but a lot of skill and good work made this happen.
So give good luck. I say good luck to Warwick. I say good luck to Cranston. I'm sorry that we were first, but I'm really not sorry.
So just a question regarding the reimbursement, because I know we had found that there was some reimbursements that the school was supposed to receive, that it was actually held in our city accounts, and that we actually turned back over to the school for them to do their capital, I think they went back into their capital improvement budget. This reimbursement, all monies coming back for this reimbursement are coming to the city. None of it is going, there's no part of it that belongs to the school for any reason.
Correct.
They'll be seeking for any reason.
And no, it's very simple. Whoever pays the bill gets the money back. So every year the school, for the last number of years, the school has done some of their own. And so the money, the way the state does, they put it all into one account. So it all comes to us. And then we have to, at year end, normally we'll settle up with the school department. We'll go to RIDE and they'll say, okay, here's what we gave you, here's what was broken down, here's what the city, here's what the school piece is. And,
So when that reimbursement comes, will that be going directly to the payment of the debt, or are we putting that in the general fund and?
yes, the way it works is, we're scheduled, we have to pay the debt. So the money comes into our general fund if it's available, and then we'll end up having to make 2 payments a year. So normally we'll pay the payment and then get reimbursed afterwards, but within the same year. Of the school.
We don't know the total cost of the bill yet, right? Because we haven't finished.
Right?
I know what the guaranteed maximum price is.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
187 off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up. but it's about $2.7 million shy of the budgeted amount.
How much is that?
Roughly about 100
Oh,
million.
how much are we going to get? We're going to get 74% of what they said was the maximum reimbursement, or the reimbursable cost, which was 136, I think $136.5 million. So we will get 74% of $136.5 million. We will pay the rest. So essentially, we're getting close to $100 million, and then we pay the rest.
And the key word there is guaranteed, the guarantee max. It can't
It's
go
the
higher.
guaranteed max.
That's guaranteed.
Yeah, I think, let's say if it was 190 and you paid, $50, $60 million in interest, you're at 250, 270. So we're getting reimbursed about 100 million of it, so the school's gonna cost us probably 150,
Not bad.
20.
150 for $189 million less interest. Any other questions
Thank
regarding
you.
debt service? That will conclude tonight's meeting, but before we depart, I'd just like to ask if we could schedule the next meeting. I know we put placeholders on for the 15th, 22nd, and 29th of this month. However, those were just placeholders. I'd like to make some changes, and if we can also include the departments that we would like to have for the next meeting, whenever that may be.
May I start with a request that we forego the meeting on the 15th? We hold the meeting on the 22nd, but maybe we can do one on the 29th instead of the 15th?
So 9/22 and 9/29?
9/22 and 9/29 instead of 9/15 and 9/22.
Instead of 9/22 or 9/22 and 9/29?
Yeah.
Oh, did we already have 9/29 set up? No, we had 9/15 and 9/22.
That works for me. I have a problem with 9:15.
Can I just ask,
Oh, okay,
can I just
so-
chime in for 1 second? So the deputy clerk just reminded me that Dylan said we should shy away from the 9/29 because of advertising issues.
Okay.
When we have, because we're getting close to that.
Oh, when we
Yeah,
must get it out by.
exactly, yeah. So he wants to shy away from that.
Okay,
So 9/22 is a definite, right?
Yeah.
so 9/22 is a definite.
Okay.
I think 9/15 was bad for me. Councilman Roderick, you said it's bad for you.
Yeah.
Bad for me. Let me see, what are we looking at?
So what are we looking at for dates then,
22.
for advertising?
What's the last date for advertising that we're in? We should-
October 4th.
He gave us a schedule. I don't have it with me. I don't remember what it was.
He didn't give me the schedule per se, he just stated that the 29th is not
I thought he gave us one.
good because it would put us off the advertising schedule for what we needed. I believe, please don't quote me on this, I wanna say the 27th is the last time.
Yes.
Because I have to advertise.
For the public hearing. We're advertising for the public hearing.
not for
Not for the final budget, but
Right.
for the public hearing.
And
Okay,
there,
so we don't want to go earlier than the 29th,
Correct.
but we can go later.
Maybe the
Correct.
27th?
and there is a state law that says there's an ad that we're currently finalizing that has to go in the paper, and it has to be advertised 10 days before the first public hearing.
22
So
and
that's
20.
the issue. It's the state advertising requirement.
Okay.
So
So our first public hearing, are we gonna have on October? Are we gonna have it on the 21st or the 5th at a council meeting? When are we doing our public hearing?
We should probably do that early in the month, right? Because we got to get it done by the end of the month. And then we always run into that day crunch of like, oh, so many days before there's a veto or yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, October 11th is Columbus Day, and
Our meeting would be on the 5th. Our regularly scheduled meeting is 5 October. Do we commit the 5 October meeting to, right? We've done that in the past.
We
right?
have,
We've had,
yeah.
and we've even split meetings if we had to on that date, if we had a bunch of ordinances and stuff, right?
Yeah.
so if we went the 22nd and the 27th,
27th's a Monday.
Monday, that keeps us away from 28, 29.
I don't have a problem with the 27th. I don't know, if Councilwoman Souza, I don't know if that impacts your schedule.
It's just the workshop, right?
Just
Yeah.
another workshop. We're just replacing the 15th date
with the 27th date, or we're just basically shifting down.
Okay. That'll be fine.
So then we eliminate the 15th, we keep the 22nd, and we add the 27th for workshops.
Yes.
Okay. And can we designate, at least for the 22nd, the date that, what departments you're gonna wanna do at that point?
I'd like to at least have enough time for Public Works, DPW, Parks, so whatever departments that entails, I'd like to suggest at least a start there on the 22nd.
Can I recommend that we dovetail the capital discussion on top of DPW, because a lot of the capital stuff tends to be DPW type stuff?
Yeah, good idea. Is Parks and Recreation, would that still be under DPW?
Yes.
So it'll be DPW and,
Well, Parks and Recreation, isn't that Diane Sullivan?
yeah, but did she
It's still under her.
come under
Yeah.
DPW?
Actually, no, it's, well, it's community services, but no, it's community services. Yeah, if you look at your table of contents, that's so look, Public Works includes Public Works, Building Inspection, Engineering, Highway, Parks, Streetlights, Refuse, Public Buildings, and Central Garage.
DPW.
So we don't want to add too much more to that, maybe just that
We can
and
get a lot of the
capital.
small ones out of the way
This,
as
yeah,
well.
the small ones, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if we do a big one or two big ones and then just small ones.
Well, save the capital for 27th. then.
Yeah, the only reason I threw the capital out there is because most
Yeah.
of the capital, and then Dan doesn't have to come back twice.
Right,
If we could keep the 27 to some of the small ones, or maybe like a carryover from the 22nd would be good, just because I can't get out too late on that day.
So the only other big heavy hitter I can think of that we would have left really would be, ITHR, right? Library.
Schools.
Library.
And the school departments, we don't get that.
Yeah, but we can't really do anything with their budget.
Are we getting a copy of their budget or no?
They've given you a copy, Mr. Mayor, right? The school department has.
Did they give it to us?
I didn't,
They gave it to us, right?
a while ago?
Yeah.
I've had it for a long time.
Yeah,
but
they
I-
gave it to us, Craig sent it to us. So what do we got DPW capital
On the 27th,
on the, we're going,
22nd.
22nd.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yep. So DPW and capital.
Do you want to go right down on the list? I mean, do you?
I'm just
wanna
gonna
go-
I'm just gonna include all the ones under Public Works, right? Public Works, Building,
Yeah.
Engineering, Highway,
Yeah,
Parks, Street,
it's all
Refuge.
DPW,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll do them all.
Water sewer? Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So with that and capital, I think that should be a busy night.
Yeah, that's gonna be a lot of.
Yeah, and if we have to carry something over, we,
And then let's do some small ones, throw some small ones in there. Maybe, we could do council. We could do canvassing maybe,
On which date?
22nd.
On the 22nd? I thought we were doing DPW and all that entails.
Yeah, DPW capital.
Mhm.
Water. And then I was thinking like some small ones, like, I mean, what are we gonna do with ours, capital?
I mean, that's a lot.
capital has a lot of stuff.
Okay, so you wanna end it there? We don't
So
have
that
to-
might even be ambitious.
Yeah, I think that's a lot.
So
because
Public Works-
DPW itself has a lot to go through.
So Public Works, Enterprise, Water, and then capital for the 22nd. All right.
That sounds.
Canvassing,
We can put city council canvassing on as a.
No, we don't have to.
Okay.
We'll just leave it as is,
DPW,
capital.
capital, and water sewer. And we'll just list on the agenda, under the table of contents.
Why don't we do this? Why
show
don't
you
we
too.
put, council on the
Yeah.
event that we do finish up earlier, we can do ours, at least without asking.
right, because we're here anyway, so.
If not, we'll just do it another time, that's all.
Right,
If it's getting too late, we'll just do it. So why don't you put
I got it, yeah.
I'm not trying to be here till midnight.
We don't have to do it.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean, I guess,
What I'm saying is if it gets late, we won't do it.
right,
We'll just
right.
finish the-
But just
the
to have it just in case.
Yeah. So
Do you want to put this city clerk's office too, just in case?
All right, put clerk's office also.
City clerk.
Yeah.
And then the
But the
27th
intent is to do DPW, capital, water.
and water.
And water.
Mm-hmm, water sewer. And then the 25th, the 27th, are we planning on what we're doing that day too, or we're just gonna?
Would be the rest, right?
Okay.
The balance.
Balance of everything that's left.
Take care of this.
Et cetera.
And
Okay.
do we have a meeting on the 29th?
No.
No meeting on the 29th.
And I'll look, I know that Dylan did a
So let me-
schedule, I'll make sure you guys get
So in
that.
an event, I mean, we can always do one during a council meeting if we need to, right?
Yep.
So we can keep that in mind going forward for October 5th, that if the 27th gets too much, we can always carry, like, say, even one or two small ones, like canvassing and one other small one over.
And we do not have a regular council meeting on the 21st, correct?
No.
What do you,
On the
I'm not asking
21st?
for one.
we have a council meeting on the 21st.
Yes, we do have one on the
Yeah,
21st.
twice a month.
Yes, we do. 7th and 20th.
It's only part-time in the summer.
Let's try to keep the agenda short, everybody.
Okay.
Right.
Would anyone like to make a motion at this point in time to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second. Third.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon,
All right.
Councilman Morado,
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick,
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza,
Aye.
Council President Britto.
Aye. Thank you.